What did you learn from your audience feedback? I learnt a considerable amount from my audience feedback. Throughout the creation of my film, I got constant feedback from my media classmates on parts I needed to change, which was very useful as it helped improve the overall quality of my film. Getting audience feedback from my classmates was very useful as they are not only similar to me, but also similar to what I think my target audience would be. After finishing my film, I tried to get as much audience feedback as possible to learn more about my film. I received positive feedback from a whole media class and then brought in many people in between the ages of 15 to 18, as that's what I thought my target audience would be. The large majority of people that watched the film loved it. I learned that a particularly enjoyable part of my film was the montage, which a lot of people really enjoyed. Another part that was well received was the final battle between the Hitman and the Russian, which some described as epic. A few females, however, said they found the film was a bit boring and they did not enjoy the fight scenes. I learnt a lot from this audience feedback as it made me aware that my target audience is more than likely males between the ages of 15 to 18. I then thought it would be a good idea to use Web 2.0. So I put my film on YouTube, and from that I could put it on social networking sites such as Facebook and Twitter, and I could get quite a lot of feedback from them. Not only did I get likes and feedback off of Facebook, but I also got a considerable amount of shares. This meant that the film was seen by a large amount of people, which was monumentally helpful in finding out who my audience was. I was even in the car once and a random old woman come up to me and complimented me on it, saying it looked very professional. I said thank you. And despite being incredibly flattered, I did of course realise the importance of this. This meant that my target audience may be bigger than I thought. This is backed up by the fact that people from age 30 plus has complimented me on my creation, either to my face or via social networking sites. Overall, I learnt a lot from my audience feedback, especially in finding out who my audience was. At first I thought my target audience was teenage males looking for a good action film. Now, going from what I've learned in my audience feedback, I can say that my target audience is males aged 15 plus and females aged 30 plus, all of course the type who enjoy good, violent action comedy. I also learned a lot just from trying to get my audience feedback in terms of marketing and getting people to watch my film, which I find a very useful skill to have acquired. How did you use new media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages? The most useful piece of software for the construction of my film was probably the iMac, as on it was everything I needed to edit my film. The main program I used for the construction of my film was iMovie, as I found it simple to use yet extremely effective in its capabilities, such as being able to voice record in certain parts of my film. Another program I spent a lot of time on was GarageBand, where I constructed a lot of my music. I could even use it to bring in different musicians to record, so then I could edit the sounds that they created and put them in my film. To create some of my special effects, such as the gunshot flare scene in my film, I took my film into Final Cut Express, which was a very useful piece of technology, and it helped my film look better and more professional. In terms of research, my biggest use of technology was the internet, and mainly YouTube. I found that watching other short films and clips of films that have influenced me greatly enhanced my knowledge and therefore helped make my film better. The technologies used in my planning includes mainly PowerPoints and Prezis to show my planning. I also used iPhoto to upload the photos of my storyboard, which was quite a useful way of getting them on the computer. For the evaluation, I am again using iMovie because of its simplicity, and I'm also using Microsoft Word to write my notes. How effective is the combination of your main product and ancillary texts? My film is a postmodern homage to Quentin Tarantino, Guy Ritchie and Sergio Leone, and I wanted to get this across not only in my film but also in my two ancillary texts, my film review and my film poster. I kicked off this theme in my review immediately by stating that my film was a homage from these directors. I kept pushing the fact my film was a homage throughout the entire review. One example is bringing up Ennio Morricone's music used in Sergio Leone's work and saying it was similar to my music. This signified my film was a nod and a homage to the Western genre. I also made my film review postmodern in the use of the main picture that I used, of which I edited heavily to make it look red and dark, which is postmodern as they are unnatural colours as well as being extremely stylised. I carried on the theme of homage in my poster as it is a pastiche to the posters of Guy Ritchie. with the blood splatter and the scratching effect. This blood splatter effect is also seen in Tarantino posters such as Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained. It is also a homage to Guy Ritchie title sequences, as I edited the picture to make it look more cartoon-like rather than an actual picture taken by a camera. This effect is shown in films such as Rock'n'Roller and the Sherlock Holmes series. The high contrast between the whites and darks in my poster is also postmodern and it's very stylish. All in all, the combination of my film and ancillary text are very effective, as all three of them not only complement each other but also stick to the postmodern themes of my movie. In what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? In the research stage of the creation of my film, I watched a lot of short films and looked into the conventions of your average short film. Although I enjoyed a lot of them, I wanted my film to have a bigger feel about it, almost like a big Hollywood action film. Saying this, however, I knew I wanted to use certain conventions of the short film, such as having a plot twist at the end and obviously making it short in length. The main convention I used from the short film genre, however, was postmodernism, of which I decided immediately to include in my film. I wanted to make it postmodern in that it would be a homage and a pastiche to directors that have influenced me, as well as themselves using postmodernism in the past for forms of homage and pastiche. I decided to look at their work and write up conventions which I could use and or develop. I decided to stick with the theme of extreme violence, which is apparent through both directors' work. I also tried to use similar shot types with my use of crash zooms, similar to that in both Sergio Leone films and Tarantino films. I also imitated the quick edits from the works of Guy Ritchie. In doing these things, I created a pastiche and a homage to directors such as Leone, Ritchie and Tarantino, and therefore this shows ways in which I used and developed conventions of postmodernism. I also used conventions from action films such as the James Bond franchise, the Batman trilogy, etc., by adding lots of fight scenes in my film. Despite following a lot of conventions, I felt it necessary to challenge conventions of most media products in order to invent myself as an auteur. I did this by ignoring the classical convention of keeping a linear structure. Instead, my film features dream sequences and a montage. I also challenged conventions by talking to the audience and breaking the fourth wall, as well as using contrapuntal music whilst the character made his cup of tea. I even, to my knowledge, invented my own shot type, which is now called the slam tilt,